What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. I'm going to take you guys on a historical bus tour, but first we need to stop in Mr. G's. Guys, I got cookie dough ice cream. What's your favorite ice cream? Comment down below. But after I eat this ice cream, we're going to go take this bus tour. Going to tour the battlefields of Gettysburg. So let's get right into it. Hi, as you can see, I'm back at home now. It's been probably just about a week now since we've taken the Gettysburg bus tour, and it's changed. So guys, the last time we took it, we made multiple stops throughout the trip. I think 3 or 4 stops. But the tours are always changing based on the capabilities of the battlefield, which I'll get into in a little bit. But guys, if you've already taken one of these bus tours, make sure you take it again because it may have changed since the last time you've taken it. Because of this, it's changed how I wanted to film the video. Instead of stopping at each location and talking about the history and what happened there, I took little video clips and I'm basically going to walk through the entire tour that we took and a little bit of the history of the actual Battle of Gettysburg. But of course, nothing beats seeing it in person. So if you guys want to check this out for yourself, I'm going to put the links down below to take one of these bus tours to check out the Jennie Wade House and the orphanage in Gettysburg. Because nothing beats seeing it in person. So 10 out of 10 would recommend you visit Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. And if you guys do go, make sure you tell them that Haunted Nights, Dylan and Steve sent you guys there. But without further ado, let's get right into it. So our tour starts at 778 Baltimore Street in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, the Gettysburg Tour Center. We went in, they gave us some shirts, and we started our bus tour. It's a double-decker bus tour. It was a beautiful day out, so it was just all around a great time. We began by driving by the Jennie Wade House, which, funny enough, was the video we filmed the night before the bus tour. So it was kind of funny to drive by it and, be kind of refreshed on some of the history of the Jennie Wade House. But just after that, we ended up driving right past the Farnsworth House, which is where they think the sniper actually was that sent the fatal shot that got Jennie Wade. The way the bus tour was set up, you basically follow each day. You follow each day of the battle. Gettysburg was a 3-day battle. Basically, if you guys don't know, the Battle of Gettysburg was part of the American Civil War. It was July 1st through 3rd, 1863. Confederate forces were pushing into Pennsylvania. And if you guys look on a map, Gettysburg is actually very, very close to Washington, D.C. I didn't even realize this. This is my 3rd time or 4th time going to Gettysburg. I just didn't realize how close Gettysburg was to D.C. Things weren't looking great. You know what I'm saying? The Battle of Gettysburg was definitely a pivotal point for the American Civil War. So in the first day of the battle, the Union Army was on the retreat. They were retreating towards the town of Gettysburg, and they were outnumbered. As many as 4,000 Union soldiers were captured on the first day because they were basically just running for the hills. They were being beaten back by Confederate forces, and Cemetery Hill was the safety point right by the Jennie Wade House, right by the Gettysburg Orphanage. There was 4,000 troops in reserve and 43 cannons waiting there to be deployed onto the battlefield. But basically, if you made it to Cemetery Hill, you knew you were safe. On the tour, we learned of another famous civilian from the Battle of Gettysburg. 69-year-old veteran John Burns grabbed a musket, went out, and he decided to defend his town from advancing Confederate forces. He would become wounded 3 times and ended up surviving the battle. He's the only civilian to be involved in the battle other than the famous Jennie Wade, which, guys, again, if you haven't visited the Jennie Wade House, definitely go check it out because it's super cool. But after the first initial contact between Confederate and Union forces, the Confederates realized this wasn't just some local random hodgepodge militia that was defending Gettysburg. It was the Union Army, the Army of the Potomac, and they returned with 14,000 troops. So they had kind of like a probing force they sent, like 3,000 or 4,000 troops. Once they realized it was an actual army, it was the Army of the Potomac, the force they had been fighting all this time, they came back with a lot more men. And guys, I talk about it all the time, but I love historical tourism because it helps keep these places alive. There's 1,725 monuments, markers, and cannons. 1,700 monuments, markers, and cannons. I'm going to say that again because that makes it the most well-marked battlefield pretty much in the world, which is insane. But guys, these places only stay alive because of tourism. When you guys visit these locations, when you guys pay for these tours, you pay to go to these national parks, it helps keep them alive. So just keep that in mind. If you do get the opportunity, definitely take some time, visit Gettysburg, visit these national historic sites because they're very important to our history. And that's how they are, they're doing these renovations to restore some of these locations you can visit. I'll get into that in just a minute in the video that's coming up soon. So the peace marker on the Gettysburg battlefield is actually at the highest point of the battlefield for day 1. July 3rd, 1938, an eternal flame to represent peace and unity was lit. 1,800 surviving Civil War veterans ended up attending this ceremony in a 250,000 person crowd. If you've ever visited Gettysburg, you know it's a pretty small town. Imagine 250,000 people rolling up to watch this peace ceremony. It was amazing. The pictures they have of this event are pretty cool. I'll post a few on here if I can find them. But after the first day, the Union was in a full-scale retreat. They ended up retreating towards Gettysburg, towards higher ground up near Cemetery Hill. And troops from an Ohio regiment actually took a cannon to cover the Union retreat because, unlike modern day, there weren't really any buildings on the outskirts of Gettysburg. There weren't any houses. There weren't any of these large structures that we know of today. So it was just an open field. There were some rolling hills to kind of protect. You know, they kind of had a defilade to hide behind these rolling hills. But at the same time, there were a lot of open fields. So one of the Ohio regiments ended up taking a cannon and assisting in the retreat of Union forces, kind of covering the retreat, and they retreated towards the town of Gettysburg. Another kind of cool spot that you drive by, Stratton Street, which is where Amos Humiston was actually found. He was part of the 154th New York Infantry, and he's pretty much the reason that the Gettysburg Orphanage came around. So that's another really cool tie-in to the locations that Ghostly Images of Gettysburg run, because you learn about it on the tour. It's kind of a quick thing. As you're driving by, they point out that Amos was found in this street, but at the same time, that's the entire reason that the Gettysburg Orphanage was started. They found this tintype of his kids, they circulated it, ended up finding out who it was, and you know, these orphanages started popping up all around the U.S. after this American Civil War. I don't know, it's just all really cool how it connects. I just want to say that. It's cool. I don't know. So as we get towards the second day, we find ourselves at Culps Hill. On the second day, George Sears Greene, the oldest Union general and the grandson of Nathaniel Greene from the Revolutionary War, commanded a New York unit, and he was ordered off the hill to go support one of the other lines that was faltering. Culps Hill never fell to Confederate forces, but it was very close. The lower hill did, but the hill itself up on the top never fell to Confederate forces, so that was something that was pretty cool to learn about. As I was just saying, Lower Culps Hill was captured on the night of the second day of the battle, and Union forces took 7 hours the next day to evict the Confederate forces that were there because they had entrenched themselves and kind of given up some earthworks to protect themselves from advancing Union forces. Even though Union forces had the high ground, they still took 7 hours. Driving through, too, you can actually see some of the earthworks because they've had reenactors come through and actually create what would have been kind of put up at Culps Hill. So it's really, really cool to see this sort of stuff too. And apparently every weekend they have living history reenactors come in and they have a campsite dedicated for them. So they come out, they set up their camp, they live there for the weekend. Basically, you can ask them questions. They have the whole field set up. It's pretty cool to see. I would assume, because we didn't see them, but I want to. Low key, I want to be a reenactor. Is that weird? I think that'd be so fun. Anyway, I don't know. It is predicted that during the Battle of Gettysburg, 7 to 9 million rounds were fired, and 1 million were at Culps Hill alone, which is insane. Another really scary fact about the Battle of Gettysburg, too, after the battle, the town was left in ruins. 21,000 people were left as wounded, 10 times the population of Gettysburg. Pretty much every building became a hospital. If you drive through downtown Gettysburg, a lot of the buildings there have signs that say Civil War building, and it says like a little history about, you know, what the building was. Pretty much every single house, every single structure in the town of Gettysburg became a field hospital because the need was so great. So one thing they also talked a lot about on the tour was Pickickets Charge. So 3 p.m. the third day, it took 20 minutes for them to cover a mile, which is actually pretty good. Like considering how much they had to carry, how hot it was, the wool uniforms they had on, 20 minutes for a mile, you know, even after all the marching they had done to get to Gettysburg, that's not bad. You know, that's not too bad at all. Pickett's Charge was an absolute loss, though. I don't have the exact casualty notes here. I was trying to take notes very, very quickly on the tour. So, again, take the tour so you get all the facts. But guys, Pickett's Charge had over a 50% casualty rate. So basically, they jumped over this fence. They were trying to push the Union forces back, and they had a 50% casualty rate. That's devastating to their forces. General Lee, the Confederate general who was commanding the battle, ended up taking accountability for the failure of Pickett's Charge, and he withdrew to the mountains because I didn't know this, but the Blue Ridge Mountains actually extend up into Pennsylvania, which, you know, I saw the mountains, I've seen the mountains in Gettysburg before. I didn't realize those were the Blue Ridge Mountains, though. The more you know. Pretty cool. See, you learn cool stuff like that on the tour, too. It's not just about the battle itself. You also drive through a wheat field, which changed hands 7 different times during the battle. They say this is probably the bloodiest part of the battle just because it was hand-to-hand fighting. They kept taking control and losing control throughout the entire battle. So this is a very, very somber area. There's a lot of marshes as well, and they said that the marsh actually became bloody. It was known as Bloody Run. Also on July 3rd, 1 p.m. roughly, they said, 250 cannons fired at each other. They're just going back and forth, volleys upon volleys. It was heard from Philadelphia. Guys, that's not close to Gettysburg. That's not close to Gettysburg at all. Like, I just looked it up on Apple Maps, right? Gettysburg, Pennsylvania to Philadelphia is 2 hours and 19 minutes. Like modern day travel, it's 140 miles. So to put that in perspective, 140 miles, they heard the cannon fire from the Battle of Gettysburg. Kind of a funny fact I learned too, General Meade, one of the Union commanders, evacuated at 1 p.m. because his position was about to be overrun. He returned to his original field headquarters at around 4 p.m. because he noticed that it wasn't overtaken. Pickett's Charge, when it started, he realized that they were encroaching on his position, so he decided to flee his field headquarters, and some of his staff stayed behind. He came back at 4 p.m., realized that his field headquarters was still good, and he inquired about Pickett's Charge and how it was doing, and his staff reported back they were failing, they were falling behind, and Meade is reported to have responded, "Thank God." I just found that funny. I don't know. Maybe I'm weird. Funny enough, too, the 4th of July, the Confederate forces ended up retreating from Gettysburg. They were covered by the sounds of a thunderstorm, so Union forces didn't even know that the Confederates left until July 5th, a whole full day later. And then after a battle like this, during, the times, the technology that they had, if you were the winning general, the honor that you got to have after winning was, one, holding the ground that was now totally destroyed, but two, burying the casualties or treating the casualties that were left over in the town. It's estimated that about 1,000 Confederates were never found because after the battle, Confederate forces, Confederate troops would come through and they would mark where they remembered their friends had fallen. Same thing with Union troops as well. But it's estimated that 1,000 were never found. And because the Battle of Gettysburg had an estimated 51,000 casualties, now keep in mind casualties is wounded and deceased, but 51,000 casualties about, there's a lot going on, right? There's a lot going on, a lot of chaos. The town was completely destroyed. So a lot of troops were just kind of buried where they lied. It didn't matter if you were Union, if you were Confederate, you would end up resting side by side or in the same grave in some cases. And since Meade was mainly focusing on his troops, the Union troops that he had lost in the battle, many Confederate soldiers were buried by local civilians. So the only reason that the Confederates were found, that were buried, some of them, was because the civilians had buried them and remember where they put them. So another thing that was super cool that we got to visit was Little Roundtop. So guys, Little Roundtop has been closed the past couple of years because it was eroding terribly. So many people loved visiting it because it has a beautiful view, which I'll put right here, but it was in bad shape. And because it is now open, the tour stops have changed. Like I was saying in the beginning of the video, if you guys have taken a tour, it's probably changed. Since Little Roundtop is now open, we spent a lot of time there. We didn't make the usual stops that I was used to that we did last year, but it was a good time. I'm going to put some videos right here of Little Roundtop, just the beautiful view. Again, videos don't do it justice, but right after we visited Little Roundtop, we went to the Pennsylvania Peace Monument. Guys, this video is honestly all over the place. I'm trying to keep all my videos and all of my notes here straight, but honestly, the best thing you can do to get a good understanding of the Battle of Gettysburg is to take one of these tours. Like I said, I was kind of shocked that we didn't make the usual stops that I was used to. I went into it with a game plan of recording the stops that we did last year, but now that Little Roundtop was open, they wanted to give us some time to really explore it because it's been closed for so long. So we didn't make the usual stops that I was used to, and it threw off my entire video. But I wanted to share this experience because I think it's super important that we remember history like this. I'm a huge history buff. I love learning more about history. I love going to these locations, seeing where these battles occurred, seeing where people lived, visiting these asylums, these hospitals, all this other stuff. Because I love being able to walk the halls, to walk the battlefields, and really see where it happened, what their conditions were. You can read about something in a textbook, but going to a tuberculosis hospital or going to a battlefield and seeing where it all went down really just immerses you in the moment. You know what I mean? So, long story short, that is a very, very, very basic summary of the Battle of Gettysburg. I only had the chance to take some notes, like I said, that kind of threw me off when we didn't make the regular stops that I was used to. But all in all, it was a beautiful tour. The staff there are very knowledgeable. It's just really, really cool to be able to visit towns like this. So, guys, thank you so much for supporting not only this channel, but the Haunted Nights channel as well. As I've said the past couple of videos, Today is Wednesday, June 11th. I actually leave today for the next 16 days. I'm going to be gone for an extended period of time, so my regular streams won't be happening, but we will have regular uploads both on the Haunted Nights channel and here on the personal channel. If you guys are members on this channel, you will be able to watch the two videos coming up. One drops the 18th and one drops the 25th. There are two paranormal investigations that are coming, and if you guys want to, you can watch them now if you're a member, or you can wait until the Haunted Nights videos drop to, kind of get the full picture. Totally up to you. But being a member on this channel helps out a ton. Same with Haunted Nights. Haunted Nights, we're doing some giveaways for the top tier over there as well. So every location we've been visiting, we've been getting something just to give away. It's kind of like a cool way to get back to you guys and a way for you guys to have some sort of like connection to the places that we go to. So that's what we've started doing over on there. Everything helps though, guys. Likes, comments, shares, subscriptions. If you guys haven't subscribed yet, make sure you go down below. Drop a comment. Let me know what you think about videos like this, kind of like a historical recap sort of thing. But that's pretty much it, guys. Thank you so much. If you sat all the way through this video, make sure you comment down below. I heart Gettysburg. And again, if you guys visit Gettysburg, you take a tour with ghostly images, which you should. 10 out of 10 would recommend, but definitely tell them that we sent you guys. Send them all of our love because they're super, super cool. Follow all my socials down below if you don't follow me already. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Streams will be coming back very, very soon. Don't worry. Much love. Talk to you guys soon.